Hello and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today I am joined by a guy who has definitely made his mark in the Midwest as it relates to our industry, and someone who I've looked up to over the years, and definitely excited to get him on the podcast. And so without any further ado, would like to welcome the president and CEO of Tom Drexler Plumbing, Air, and Electric, Mr. Tom Drexler himself. Welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate the kind remarks.
Absolutely. Tom, if you don't mind, let's start out by giving the listeners a little bit of kind of your background, where you started, and then what you've built down there in Louisville, Kentucky.
My whole family kind of has been into plumbing my whole life. So I'm a plumber by trade. Got out of high school in the late 70s, early 80s, back when the interest rates were like 22%. So people talk about some of the bad times, but when I got out of high school, I feel like that was about the worst there was. So there wasn't a lot of hiring going on. So I would shovel your snow, cut your grass, or fix your pipe, because I knew a little bit about that. And being nobody was hiring, I just had the lucky misfortune of, starting to do things on my own. I had some friends of mine that their parents owned a lot of rental property, and they would try me out here and there. And, got my license short after that, and went into business and I was a master plumber at 23. I went into business in 1982. And again, I used to be proud of myself to have started my business back when the times were so bad. But looking back, it was a real blessing, because we would run an ad in the newspaper and we would have 10 plumbers lined up Monday morning, good ones, to, just hadn't worked for a while, just wanting a job. So the manpower wasn't difficult to obtain. And I always, enjoyed talking to people and wasn't scared to advertise and get out there. So it kind of just went from there. So the company grew 10 or 15%, plumbing only. We did, luckily for me, we did do a lot of residential service, as well as, some repair and renovation. Never really got too much into new construction. And then luckily I found out about Nexstar in around 2007 and joined. And it's been just a blessing ever since. I saw, what things could be like, and, what my company could be like, and met so many wonderful people, and have saw so many great businesses that people willing to share. It's just been an incredible organization for me. Fast forward, now we have close to 300 employees. We'll do about 46 million in business this year. We really, kind of a destination job, take care of our employees, have a real strong culture, and it's a very profitable and successful business. And I attribute it to hiring the right people, taking care of them, and having a vision for success. The first few years I was in Nexstar, just moving around, talking to different people, and I was fortunate enough to go to a peer group with John Ward at Applewood. He was showing out the trajectory of their company, and huge at the time, probably as big as mine is now. But and so I asked him the question, why is your goal to grow like that? And I guess I'm bringing this up just because of the name of your podcast, but he said, Tom, that's just the path we're on. If we keep doing what we're doing, this is just where we're going to end up. And that stuck with me, along with other talks I've had with other members. And so back, once we got our feet under us with Nexstar, maybe got up to about 10 million, we still were just in plumbing. And then at that point, really did make a conscious decision to decide, okay, it's a great business. It's not right or wrong to kind of keep doing what we're doing, or to grow the business. And so, the decision was made, we're going to grow the business. We developed a clear vision and core values for the business, and had a couple big meetings. We call them Vision Day, and painted the forecast of what we wanted to be, and what we were going to look like. And we purchased a new building, added the electric and the HVAC at the same time, and put different leaders in place, and did more leadership training. We fulfilled what we projected out, and it's kind of almost we're going through a phase of resetting that. But it's been really exciting to have been around so many great leaders, like yourself as well, and Nexstar, and just coming up to your shop a few months ago, and learning some great things, and trying to put those things into practice. And so it's been an exciting ride, and still fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a ton to unpack there when you were up here, and the questions you were asking. I think the one thing that I would reiterate about what I noticed about you was just the eagerness to learn. Most people, I feel like you grow so big, and it's like, well, what could I learn? And we have people of all different size businesses here for tours and different stuff like that. And I learned something from everybody. People keep asking me, well, why give so many tours? Like, hey, they're bringing great ideas, and I'm sure we can share as well. But you mentioned there, to kind of go back to the start, you mentioned starting back in the 80s. I am close to that story because that's when my dad started our company as well. And he tells the same story about no one was hiring. So he always tells, yeah, I'd apply everywhere, and they'd say, well, you need experience. And he'd say, well, that's what I'm here to get. I can't get it if you won't give it to me. And you mentioned that recruiting at the time was very, very easy, and I think today, in today's environment, obviously one of the things that people would point to is hiring is increasingly tough with all the things that are going on. What do you guys do there at your company as far as retention go? And you may touch on a little bit of the recruiting stuff, but once you find great people, you want to hold on to them. What are some of those things that you guys are doing that you feel like have been helpful in attracting and then also retaining those people?
Part of it is just the culture of the business. Our company cultures: have fun, get it done. And, I'm driven but laid back at the same time. And that's the kind of people we try to hire throughout the business. So I think that so many of the people there are, genuinely friendly and positive by nature, that is a big retention tool in itself. But we do a lot of other things, simple things, snacks and soft drinks that cost inside the business. We bring fresh fruit in, in the building. We have a lot of, parties and events. About once a quarter, we'll have either a cookout or a big family picnic, or here in Louisville, they claim the biggest fireworks show in the country 2 weeks before Derby. So we rent the top of this big garage, and everybody brings the family, and it's like right underneath the fireworks. So it's kind of a special thing that, unless you knew somebody, you wouldn't really ever be able to get to do that sort of thing. I think it's a lot of, reinvesting back that way. I think having a lot of training and showing appreciation to your staff, and having leaders at each level that are aware of that, and truly appreciate their direct reports, and give them praise, and recognize them for a job well done is probably more than anything else. And try to be the leader in your marketplace with benefits, and your 401k plan, being generous with that, and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are all fantastic things. One of the things I want to ask you that you mentioned there that I want to ask you a little bit more about, and this kind of goes into, you've taken a company from zero to levels that most will never see. You mentioned that you're a laid back guy. You try to hire laid back people, but obviously also driven at the same time. How would you say you have evolved as a leader from, obviously starting the company until now? What are some of those big kind of inflection points that you may be able to point to as kind of your own leadership journey has evolved over the years?
I think that, stretching myself, I remember some of the first meetings I ever had, with my team or with my employees back, um, when we just had 10 or 12 employees and being nervous about that. We might have stood around and had a toolbox talk, but to really prepare and have a formal meeting, wasn't a natural thing to me. Or manage people and hold them accountable has not come natural to me. Everybody takes the disc and the color code, and I'm kind of all. Every time I take one of those tests, I'm kind of all four colors, but a little more blue. I'm kind of analytical and really a people person, and have gotten most of my success from people just knowing that I care about them, they care about me, and they want to do good. But I've when if I have I've had several really good mentors in my life, or I've been to a lot of really good trainings, and um, when somebody is willing to take their time and tell me something, or point out something I'm not doing right, then I feel like that they I owe them to step up and do what I need to do, even when it's uncomfortable. I think as time goes on, you the more you stretch yourself in those ways, the more you can continue to do that. I took a Dale Carnegie class when I was probably in my late 20s. It was one of the best things I ever did. And, I really worked hard at it. And one of the things I'm proud of is I won the class. So the person who everybody at the end votes, uh, stretch themselves most gets the Dale Carnegie pin. And a promise that you make to the class is that anytime you get an opportunity to speak or talk, or represent, that you can't say no. So to be honest, I've never said no. So uh, when you asked me to do the podcast, it was a given. I don't say no. So whether it's talking in front of the super meeting in Nexstar, or the local Better Business Bureau, or whatever it is, I've gotten to the point where uh, I have fun uh, talking in front of people, and I embrace that challenge. And when I have to have difficult conversations uh, with employees, or family or people I care about, I still don't love it, and it's easier than it was, but I just know that it's the right thing to do, and it's going to make my life better, my business more successful. And so I think just getting into your inner self and understanding, what's not comfortable with things that you need to do, and just taking those baby steps at a time and overcoming the those challenges to where you feel confident and positive about what you're doing.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think, you said so many great things there. The one thing I want to reiterate that I think is important for our listeners is, and you kind of finished it out there with, just being uncomfortable. And that's okay. It's okay to, stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone, because as leaders, it's not about what's comfortable to us. It's not about trying to make everybody comfortable with our way of doing things. As leaders, we're called to get a little bit uncomfortable to meet people that we're leading in their comfort zone. You mentioned DISC as well, and color code. And, oftentimes leadership is categorized with everybody should listen to what I have to say now. And that's not the case at all. It's more so understanding that, hey, I'm here to facilitate the growth and development of my team, and they all come from different perspectives. They all come from, their color is all different than mine, and so how do we meet them there? I think is is an important takeaway, at least for me, to be reminded of often. You mentioned having a vision day. And obviously, an important piece of leadership is casting the vision for where the company is going to go and things like that. Tell me a little bit more about that vision day. What's that look like for you, and how has that evolved over the years?
It's evolved a lot with the places we have it because of all the people, but typically it's a whole company breakfast, and it's about, we have it at 6:30 or 7 on a weekday morning, and till usually lasts a couple hours, and we go through all the new things that are happening in the company. First of all, any restructuring, uh, adding of departments, any leadership um, changes. We talk about, at a high level, our numbers last year, what we're hoping to do this year, what trends we're on. We talk about each department, whether it be electrical, plumbing, heating, how we're doing, in each one relative, to each other, and just talk about future changes and just keeping everybody in the company informed in a positive way, so they understand where we're going, why we do things, some challenges that we need to work on as a whole company, being, more reviews, selling, higher percentage of plans, and how important those are. Every year we review our core values, and spend 10 minutes getting deep into that to kind of keep everybody, um, you know, thinking that way, and using those as a tool on a day to day with the business. And we wrap up every vision day every year, recognizing any employee that has been there, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And, they receive an award, and, we talk about them. And so it's really more about keeping everyone in tune of the business, and people, our staff, they truly, really appreciate it. I mean, people come up to me after every vision. They go, and this is a part, or a lot of the reason, and one of the biggest reasons that I work here, because, I worked somewhere else for years, and I didn't know anything that ever happened, or, they would start a new thing or make changes and nobody ever knew why. And, to work somewhere that, everybody is somewhat on the same page. Here I'm bragging about it now with COVID and all the restrictions. We, had to do it in breakouts, or, online, or do it different ways. And we're about ready to have our first, full one, doing it the right way, the way we like to do it, probably this coming January. But anyway, we were real solid for 14, 15 years in a row, having that big meeting, and going through a presentation. Sometime we'll have a few minutes of an outside speaker. Dan Friesen came one time and did some things for us. And, we might have a charity that we're going to work with this year, and they'll come and speak, and let the employees understand more about that charity and some of the community events that we're helping in the community. But it's a really great thing that we do at the business, and I know that it really helped us, and something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We do we don't do an event like that, but my brother and I write a document each year that we hand out, that basically kind of casts the vision of where we're going to go over the next 3 years. And the one thing I would say about it, and much like you said, is it is, and you mentioned some employees came up to you and hey, I really like this and stuff like that. I think as leaders, it's important to understand that while we have a bunch of grand plans in our head, we're ultimately going to need the help of everybody on our team to get there. And so letting them know where we're going and how we may be attempting to get there is extremely beneficial, and people appreciate it. And, I know the first time we ever did it, it was like, huh, we should have done that many years before. That would have helped us out through all those times we were frustrated that I don't understand why no one else gets it. Well, you haven't told them. So, for all those leaders out there, I think it's important to take some time to understand where you want to go. And it's okay that it's where you want to go or where you want to take the business, but it's also got to be beneficial for all those involved, and to kind of show them where you're heading. You're never going to have an issue with communicating that.
Well, it makes your employees who read that and understand that communication think and realize I'm at the right place. I'm with the company that has a vision. I know where they're going. I want to be a part of that. Or, in the way we do it, I sense my employees going, I'm at the right place. This is, they're sharing with me. I want to be a part of this vision, and, it's exciting to be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes we can take that for granted, but yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice. And I think something that definitely people can relate to. One of the things, so I want to talk to you about this, and mainly because I'm curious, because we've done it a little bit different here, where my dad had the initial vision for the company, and then my brother and I have kind of taken that and kind of put our own spin on it, and taken it to the next level. What have been some of those things as you've been there for, and not that my dad hasn't, but you've been kind of directing that the entire time. What are some of those factors that have really influenced kind of the vision and the direction of the company? I know you mentioned Nexstar and you mentioned some mentors, but is there any other items that you have ran across in doing this that have changed the trajectory of your vision, or maybe given you the confidence to dream bigger or take it to the next level? What are some of those things that you could maybe talk about?
Well, I do have to go back to Nexstar and the value of visiting a company that, quite frankly, is bigger than you or doing things better than you, just gives you the belief level that, hey, I think I can do that too. And so I think that really has been a lot of it. When I joined Nexstar, with the different marketing tools and working with Ed Carrier and visiting some of the great shops. I mean, I was kind of the kid in the candy store. I mean, there was very seldom a peer group or a training, that I wasn't at. I mean, I was probably going somewhere for the first 3, 4, 5 years I was in Nexstar. I was probably going somewhere every month, and bringing that home and trying to build that in. And so, just I think that for me, at some point realizing that I want to grow. I can see it in my mind's eye, the opportunity that I felt like that I had, in my market, especially with adding, the additional trades into the brand. I don't know, you just kind of get excited about that. It's not any more difficult today, running a business with 300 employees, doing $45 million worth of business necessarily than it was when it was a $3 or $4 million business. You still have so many hours in the day. If you surround yourself with, with the right people, then, it just kind of starts to happen, and put them in the right position and set expectations for what each role needs to do. And I don't know, I'm probably not answering the question very clear, but
No, that's what
Yeah.
what you're saying is perfect. It is. I think it comes back to, you've got to want to, for sure, and then have the belief in yourself that, hey, I think I can do that. And it doesn't have to be very strong at the beginning. It's just got to be there, and then that the strength of that vision starts to grow as you find the right people and really trust in the process, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a decision,
Yeah.
to decide to grow. one of my mentors, Mark Aiken, who used to own part of Horizon Services, says it's not right or wrong. It's just a decision, to grow a little, to grow a lot, or to not to stay where you're at. It's not right or wrong. And I don't anyone who has a nice business, who provides for themselves and their family, and if they don't want all the additional responsibilities, and I think that's great. It's just whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, One of the things you mentioned, and I want to kind of touch on this simply because you mentioned it there, but what do you, obviously, as you grow and you go from, starting to, 45, 46 million, developing leaders on your team is critical. And that's how you're able to do, like you said, the same amount of challenges, just a bigger number, is surrounding yourself with really good people. What are some of those things you guys are doing there that help develop kind of your leadership team and train those that, maybe one day want to take on a larger leadership role? What do you guys do to kind of support those people?
We have a lot of in-house training. We have, weekly leadership meetings where we watch, podcasts or videos and discuss it afterwards, and invite in pretty much anybody in the company that we see as a future leader or wants to be, a future leader. But it's, Jocko Willink and, different, Maxwell and Gino Wickman, and just different things, talking about leadership. Or, in each area, when some of the managers are, when they take off work or they're tight or whatever, then sometimes we'll let technicians who have shown the want and or the leadership abilities, we'll let them come and be the service manager that week and answer the guys' questions and help the dispatchers with the board, and try to just open up opportunities for to be a ride along coach. Or is there any, not create jobs for people, but are there opportunities for different people in the business to show that they have what it takes, and and give them a chance to shine a little bit, and then pour into them more, and obviously send people to next star trainings and that sort of a thing. But we read a lot of different books around there and share them around with each other and that sort of thing. But and we hire managers and leaders, from outside. I'd say 75% of our management or leadership team came for sure from within, and then there's 3 or 4 or 5 that we really took our time because we knew we needed a specific skill set, and we brought in from the outside.
That's fantastic. I think that for me, at least, the key is, as we've kind of implemented some of those items as well, what I've noticed is that, a lot of people that are maybe not in a leadership role, but maybe want to get there, or, you identify as, hey, they've got some really good qualities. A lot of times they just need a roadmap. They just need to know where to start. There's a ton of resources out there in quote unquote leadership and training, but it's really giving them the resources to say, hey, this book will help you, read it. Or this will, this is aligned with how we want people to lead. So do it. And then, let's discuss, or let's learn from it. And I think that speaks a lot to your culture as well. Hey, what are these types of people? How are we going to instruct them to lead in the future? So no, I think those are all great tips for anybody looking to build leaders within the company, for sure. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you, just get your advice on, simply, we've done it, you've done it as well. Although I never tried to start two trades at one time. That's quite remarkable there. I would definitely definitely that's I can only imagine. But what are those things as it relates to adding a trade? What are some of those maybe pitfalls that you guys ran into that if someone was looking to start a trade, you definitely say, hey, make sure you got this in line to, probably increase your chances of success?
From our own experience, we started electrical and HVAC at the same time. We planned ahead and started selling a lot of service plans or giving them away or however we could get them through the plumbing department. So we had kind of a start there. I had a master HVAC and electrician, one technician who could do any and all things. So that kind of made it easy. And then ironically, we found a electrician who could work on furnaces a little bit. So we started with a nucleus of a couple people. Um, I think that, starting a new trade like that, you have to, you're gonna have to know ahead of time that you're gonna invest into it, and no, don't take on too much too quick, and know that you're not going to be profitable in the beginning. So I think that to map out, look, I'm going to invest, so many $100,000 or whatever, uh, this this first year, 2 years, and go into it, with eyes wide open from that standpoint. And, hopefully it does a little better than you think. But, if you have the people on the bench to take care of the customers, and even if you don't have them somewhere to go and they're just a helper, or, they're just answering the phone, or just, whatever, um, make sure that that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's correctly in the beginning, with as many of the right people that you could find, even if you have to, overpay them or bribe them a little bit, just to make sure that it goes off good, and the rest of your team doesn't think, why are we doing this? It's not going well, or people are mad, or we can't get to these calls. I don't know why we're advertising or whatever. So, um, I think that it's just like any change in your business, you have to really be on top of it and make sure that from the call center to dispatch to the marketing, and, everybody's, in tune with, how much you can do and how much you can't do. And, it definitely will take focus from the leadership of the business when you start something like that. And, you have to watch out. It's not always the best thing. And when you do it, make sure that you're protecting and focusing on, uh, what got you there in the first place, and not mess up your plumbing department because you're adding in HVAC. So to have leaders maybe from day one would be a good thing, so that there's somebody focused on it. On the HVAC, we had a couple leaders that focused on it right away, and it did better. And the electrical was kind of a sidebar. And until we, had strong leadership focused on the electrical, it kind of didn't really do very well. And then now the last couple of years, because we've had that great leader in that area, it's taking off and doing really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, your point about focus is something that I would reiterate to anyone looking to start a new trade. I think it's easy when you first start is, anybody and everybody who calls, you'll go do their work. Where I would advise people to very hone in on what it is that you're actually going to do. Like, what are we going to get good at? And then you can kind of expand. Or probably what you'll find out is if you just stay in your lane. Our big deal is, people with commercial or anything like that. It's like, no, we just do residential. So, and we do these 8 things, and that's it. And, if people, call up and want something else, we're not being afraid to tell them, hey, we just don't do that type of work. Well, what do you mean you don't do that type of work? Well, we don't do that type of work because we're not any good at it. Or we don't want to get good at it. We just want to do this really, really well.
Totally agree with that. When we first started the HVAC, a really good friend of a friend was a rep for a PTAC company. And, we weren't really all that busy at that time. And he wore me out to try to help them out and be their manufacturer's rep. And he had all these jobs. And, all it was a distraction. And I knew better.
One of the things I wanted to touch on too, just because you mentioned it in your story, and then you mentioned it a little bit later. What do you think? Advertising. That's kind of the sometimes it gets a bad name in our industry. I feel like well, I can't spend that much money, or I'm spending money in the wrong places. What is it? What's been your philosophy around kind of advertising, and what role do you think that's played in your growth?
One of the things that I didn't understand years ago was the blend of branding, top of mind awareness, and advertising call to action. So I years ago, when there was only the phone book, so that tells my age, to advertise in, they would get you a number and show how many calls you got out of your ad. So I had an ad in the phone book, and we did okay with it. And then the guy had some reports, and he had one of my competitors' ads, same company, similar as mine, and they had a lot more calls on their account than I did, for a similar ad in advertising. And prior to that, that company had a couple billboards and a couple TV commercials, and I remember thinking, well, that's silly. Why would you spend money on a billboard or a TV commercial when somebody needs a plumber? They're not going to be driving down the road, or whenever it happens, you're not going to be watching TV. You're just going to go pick up the phone book. Well, it hit me, obviously, that person was doing some branding and top of mind awareness. And then so when the person did go to, back then, that was the Google of the day, the phone book, more people thought of them than they did of us. So, but obviously when I joined Nexstar and got around more, got professional help, and learned a lot about, the balance of the brand and the branding, and the call to action. So we put a lot of work into our brand. It's called the plumber. His name is numbers. We have a jingle that matches the brand, that matches the truck. We have a 1-800 number. 118 spells my name, one time Drexler. So for 3 or 4 years, we really put a lot of time and focus and money into building the brand and the brand awareness, and got involved in the community, and spent more, probably more money back then branding than we did, generating leads and call to action. But as our brand has gotten stronger, we've slowly been able to, reduce the spend of the top of mind awareness and the branding side, and move more of that money over into, the lead generation side. And I think we're now at, I don't know, maybe 25% branding, where at one point it was almost 50-50 or 55% branding. So for someone to understand, what their brand awareness is in their market, and ensure that, slowly get to the point that enough people feel good about your brand and your company, then when you spend that money, on Google and home services and pay-per-click and all the things that we do there, as well as direct mail, and all the other stuff works when you have, the brand and the brand awareness in your community. You can spend all the money you want to on pay-per-click or Google, but if people don't recognize your brand, they're not going to call you. But if you're not, also on the flip side of that, if you're not there when they need you, in that time of emergency, then then it doesn't do you any good either. They're not going to just remember, that ad. So it's finding that good balance, and growing it to that point to where it works that way.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I've seen many of people, you see their, oh, that's an interesting billboard, and they have no call to action stuff whatsoever. It's like, well, just as you said, you got to have a mix, and that mix can change obviously over time and as you grow and, as your brand becomes stronger, but definitely having a mix is always going to make those lead gen channels work a heck of a lot better when you've got some awareness and branding, but also understanding that if you need to drive leads to your business, buying a billboard is probably not your best option. You need to look, if you got to drive leads, well, then you need some sort of offer and different things like that. So. Well, fantastic, Tom. I can't thank you enough for your time and kind of the lessons and knowledge that you've shared with the listeners today. What as we close out, is there anything that as it relates to kind of your own leadership journey, or just just advice in general that you would give the listeners out there?
Appreciate your folks, especially, just hug your stars. And, I think we get so busy all the time, and I'm not as good as I should be, but you get, people are around there that are sharing in your vision, that really, are working hard every day and believe in what you're doing. Just really, really tell them that you appreciate that, and reward them, and make sure that, that they know that you appreciate them. I think that, and don't be scared to get out of your box and implement things. I know as I've went through the changes and our growth and success, that we've had, that we've been blessed with the business, how it's good. I think that, something we talked about earlier was just not be scared to implement and change and do things, because I think there's people who have the knowledge, who learn it, but just don't want to go through the pain of implementing what they learned, when they went and paid a visit to a Peterman. So when you listen to something on one of these podcasts, you read a book, you go fortunate enough to visit, great business in your industry, you go through the training, and take that information, do something with it. I think that it all starts that wheel turning, kind of like the good to great wheel. You just gotta keep pushing that wheel a little bit at a time, and keep making all those changes to get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic piece of advice and a great way to kind of cap off the show here. As it relates to this conversation, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think that as you listeners go out there and take on the challenges of the day, the one thing I'll bring to your attention again, as Tom said, is you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Growth starts with being uncomfortable. No one has ever grown being comfortable the entire time. If you're comfortable, what you know for a fact is that you're not growing anymore. Comfort comes with allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. And so I think you've illustrated that beautifully today with some of the lessons that you've learned and the things that you're doing in your business to continue growing your people, and ultimately growing yourself. So thank you for sharing. Until next time, listeners, we'll see you.